This is Lagos. It is home to over 20 million people, and for years, this city has been dealing with some of the worst traffic congestion on the continent. On a bad day, it can take you up to 2 or even 3 hours just to move a few kilometers. For a long time, the answer to that problem has always been more roads. Successive governments kept building wider roads, more bridges, more flyovers, but none of it really fixed the traffic situation in Lagos. A city this big, growing this fast, was never going to solve its congestion problem with roads alone. So Lagos decided to try something different. It started building trains. And not just one line. Lagos is in the middle of building out what could become one of the biggest urban rail network on the continent. 2 lines are already running, several more on the drawing board. Billions of dollars have gone into it already, and billions are planned for this same project. Which is why you will hear people, including me, describing Lagos as Africa's most ambitious urban rail project right now. But ambitious doesn't automatically mean successful. So, in this video, I want to walk you through how this rail system actually started, how much money has gone into this system, and how it compares to what other African cities are doing, and whether the ambition matches the reality on ground. So let's get into it. The idea of a rail system for Lagos isn't new. People were talking about it for as far back as the 1980s, when the city was already struggling with congestion. But nothing really moved until 1999, after Nigeria returned to civilian rule, when the state government set up an agency called LAMATA, the Lagos Metropolitan Area Transport Authority. LAMATA is the body that has been running points on rail in Lagos ever since then. Rail construction on the first line, the Lagos Blue Line, began in 2010. It was supposed to be finished by 2011. The deadline came and went, and it kept slipping year after year, mostly because of funding gaps and usual delays that come with a project this size in a fast-growing megacity like Lagos. Even with all of that, the Lagos Blue Line finally opened to commuters in September of 2023. That is 13 years after construction started. The Lagos Blue Line runs 27 kilometers connecting Marina in the heart of Lagos Island to Okoko-Miyako, all towards the Lagos-Badagry corridor. Only the first phase, 13 kilometers from Marina to Mile 2, is running right now. The second phase, extending it the rest of the way to Okoko-Miyako, is under construction and is now expected to open sometime early 2027. And since it opened, the Blue Line has actually carried more than 8 million passengers. Ridership has also been growing pretty fast since then. By the end of 2024, it had done around 2.3 million trips, and by the middle of this year, that number has also increased. It has crossed 6 million ridership. It may not seem a lot like what other countries are doing when you compare it to other bigger cities, but that number is actually growing. Then there's the Red Line, a 37 kilometers route running from Agbado to Marina, mostly along the existing National Rail Corridor. In its first phase, Agbado to Onyigbo opened in October 2024. It's built for higher speeds than the Blue Line, and Lagos is now looking to extend it into neighboring Ogun State, which would make it technically a regional line, not just a city line anymore. Now let's talk about money, which I will categorize as one of the very interesting and important part of this project. Lagos State has publicly said that the Blue Line alone cost around $2 billion. But there is a well-documented discrepancy here. The Chinese contractor that is building the rail system, that's CCECC, it reported to its own shareholders back in 2019 that the contract value for both the Blue Line and the Red Line was closer to $180 million. That's a massive gap, and civil society groups in Nigeria, including Budget IT, who tracks government expenses, have publicly asked the state government to explain this discrepancy. And as far as I can tell you, that explanation has never fully come. What we do know for sure is that the state has continued raising serious money for this project. In 2023, Lagos signed a $1.35 $5 billion financing deal with African Export Import Bank and Access Bank, and part of that was marked specifically for Blue Line Phase 2. So, how does Lagos stack up against everyone else building real on the continent? Well, let's start with Cairo, because Cairo is really the benchmark here. Cairo's metro has been running since 1987, decades before Lagos moved a single train. It already has 3 operational lines carrying more than 3 million passengers a day, which is more than Lagos has carried in total since 2023. On top of that, Cairo has a fourth metro line under construction, a fifth planned, and it just opened a driverless monorail line in 2026, connecting the city to its new administrative capital. Egypt has committed something like 27 billion euros to nearly double the size of the Cairo and Giza metro network. Then, look at Addis Ababa, because this one is actually a useful warning, not just a comparison. Ethiopia opened Sub-Saharan Africa's light rail system back in 2015, built with Chinese financing, at the cost of about $470 million. For a while, it was the model everyone pointed to. But years later, a huge chunk of its trains are out of service because spare parts have to be imported from China, and Ethiopia doesn't have the foreign currency to keep buying them. Ridership has dropped as a result, even though the trains that are still running are packed beyond capacity. Addis Ababa shows you what opening a rail system or a rail line looks like. It's not just opening it. Opening it is one step, yeah, but keeping it running for decades is also a completely different challenge. And that's the part that doesn't get talked about enough. Kenya is a different kind of comparison, because its big rail story is a standard gauge railway, which is more about moving cargo and connecting Mombasa's port to Nairobi and eventually Uganda, rather than commuting passengers or commuter rail inside just one city. So it's not really a head to head with Lagos in this context, but it tells you that the Chinese finance rail is dominant model across the whole region right now, for better or for worse. So where does this leave Lagos? Honestly, I think it's still ambitious. That's the right word, but it is ambitious, or it's ambition rather, in a very specific sense. Lagos isn't a bit ambitious because it already has the biggest network in Africa, because no, it doesn't. Lagos is ambitious because of the size of the leap it is trying to make. It basically went from zero operating line to two-line system, and now there's also a master plan that has also grown from 6 lines to 11 plus line, and also a monorail in just a matter of a decade, sorry. But if you're wondering how long it would take Lagos to actually catch up to where somewhere like Cairo is, I don't think there's a number or a clear number for that, but you can actually try to reason that number out if you arrive at a specific number. Cairo took almost 40 years and multiple decades of continuous, well funded construction to get to 3 lines plus a monorail plus an expanding metro. Lagos has done 2 lines in about 13 years that also account for construction timeline, with real funding gaps along the way. If the current pace holds and if financing stays consistent, you're probably looking at a couple more decades before Lagos has a network that rivals Cairo today. On the ground right now, here is what's actually moving. Lagos has ordered new coaches for both the blue and red lines. Some already delivered, running, which has already cut blue line travel from around 18 minutes down to 10. The green line is planned, which is a 68 kilometers route connecting Marina to the Lekki Free Zone. It's being developed with, again, a Chinese state contractor and Nigeria's Ministry of Finance Incorporated. There's also a training center Lamata has set up specifically to build local expertise in running and maintaining this rail system, which honestly might be one of the more and most important things happening quietly in the background, because that's exactly what the kind of institutional capacity that Addis Ababa didn't have enough of when it started. So here is my honest read on all of this. Lagos deserves credit for the scale of what it's actually doing and what it's attempting. Going from a city with effectively no urban rail to a planned 11 line network is genuinely a big deal and a big swing. The real test isn't whether Lagos can build these lines, it's whether Lagos can fund and maintain and staff them for the next 30 or even 40, 50 years without the kind of breakdown that Addis Ababa is dealing with right now. That's the part I'll be watching closely, and it's probably the part worth watching if you live in Lagos or anywhere else banking on rail to fix a congested city. That's the story of the Lagos Rail, where it stands right now and how it measures up against the rest of the continent. If you found this video useful or helpful, please let me know in the comments. And what other African country would you want me to analyze or break down their transport system? Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys again in my next video. Have a good day. Bye.